If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another episode of Under the Radar for you guys. And this is going to be the last episode of Under the Radar for a couple of weeks, because I will be on vacation here pretty soon, but I wanted to do this episode as we got 4 underground albums to check out and review briefly. So we're going to kick this one off with Eternal Evil, The Gates Beyond Mortality. So this one, of course, all these albums come out on October 27th. This is a Swedish Blackened thrash metal band, and I've talked about a Swedish Blackened thrash album earlier this year, and that was Atonement, and this album's very similar to Atonement, where I would say it's very aggressive, as you always get with thrash, but the black metal elements I feel like are in the more tremolo riffs, like these more blackened tremolos and dark, sinister melodies, and even eerie, clean melodies to kind of give it that black metal vibe, but it still maintains thrash metal aggression and that thrash metal spirit, but also is a little bit sleazy, kind of like Hellripper to some extent, but you do get some like triplet gallops and swings here and there, plus it's very atmospheric at times. I will even go out on a limb and say it has a lot of atmosphere going. However, this album, for the most part, it's like there were a lot of really good songs, but there were a few songs that just didn't quite grab my attention. But if you are a fan of Atonement, and for old school bands, I would say Bathory, Destruction, and Slayer, definitely give this a listen. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10. I thought it was a good album for what it was, and definitely recommend you check it out. Now we're moving on to the next album, and that is Martyrdoom with As Torment Prevails. So this is a Polish death doom band, and I was curious to check this out considering there were 2 bands I saw get compared, and that's Asphyx and Autopsy. And you get a lot of both bands in this album. However, I will say the longer tracks, excuse me, the longer tracks definitely focus more on the death metal side of things. Whereas, or not the death metal side, the doom metal side of their sound, where the shorter tracks, definitely more straight up death metal, like they get really thrashy at times, blast beats, even some dissonance coming in, but during those shorter songs you get like death doom breakdowns with sinister melodies, and dare I say there's even some apocalyptic tremolo riffs on here to kind of give it a bit of that like incantation, and even like for recent bands, Ascended Dead kind of vibes. There's even like one track that has some like punky D beats going on. There's even hints of grindcore on one track, and the vocals sound straight up like Martin Van Drunen, which I always approve. So, for the most part, this was a fun listen, and it's very gross and grimy, and they even do a pretty solid cover of Autopsy's In the Grip of Winter. So, if you are a fan of Autopsy, Asphyx, Incantation, and even Ascended Dead, check this one out too. I give this 8.5 out of 10. I thought this was a pretty good album for what they were striving for. Excuse me. And now moving on to the next album, and that is Endseeker with Global Warming. So this was one I actually almost forgot about until just scrolling through my computer and then saw this came out. And this is a Metal Blade release, so of course I'm going to check it out. So this is a German death metal band. However, they sound like they came from Stockholm, Sweden, because HM2 Swedish death metal worship going on here, but done by some Germans. You get your thrashy beats, you get a little bit of a punkiness to it. But I would say there's also a lot on here that made me think of bands like At the Gates and even Bloodbath, because there's a lot more melody going on here and even some groove going on throughout the music. And the vocals, sometimes they get pretty low, other times they kind of get into like more of an evil growl, kind of like Nick Holmes, I would say, is what I think a lot of the vocal delivery kind of reminded me of, but with some more screams thrown in here and there. Gross tremolos, it's very brutal at times as well, but also very melodic, so this kind of borders like classic Swedish death and the Gothenburg melodic death metal sound because of these melodies that come in, especially in the solos, but it's still hyper-aggressive as hell. So if you are a fan of At the Gates, Bloodbath, Dismember, and Entombed, check out these Germans. I give this 9 out of 10. This was an awesome album because, holy shit, these guys just know how to do classic Swedish death metal just right from Germany. And now we get to the final album I'm talking about, and that is Cemetery Urn with Suffer the Fallen. This is an Australian death metal band, and, well, this is about some of the most cavernous shit I have heard this year, next to, like, even Incantation. There's a lot of Incantation worship going on here, but even some Funebrarum, some Ignivamus, which is another Australian band, and even Disma. Like, this album, it's mostly about, like, blazing speed, cavernous atmosphere, sinister guitar sounds. There's even some awesome triplet chugging going on here. I would say this is like if Incantation and Funebrarum had a little bit more dissonance in their guitar work. Although it does occasionally slow down at times and gets a bit melodic. There's a lot of groove on here, but dare I say, some double time moments and Blackened death metal kind of pops up here and there too. And I like the production and the mix. Like, it's gritty production, but the mix was done pretty damn well. So really, not really much to complain about with this one. Like I said, if you are a fan of, I would say, Disma, Funebrarum, Ignivamus, and especially Incantation, definitely check this out. I also give this 9 out of 10. This was some really damn good cavernous sounding death metal from the land down under. And that's all I've got to say about that. But of course, those are all just my opinions. What did you guys think of the albums? Of course, if you want to check these albums out, they will all be in the description box for you guys to listen to. But until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.